Hello friends, this is Mrs. Dennis, and today I have for you the second chapter of our story of Rattenborough. So I'm going to introduce the story to you, and then I'm going to read the story to you, and I'm going to ask you some questions along the way, just to kind of give you a few things to think about as we read the story. So let's get started. So of course, when we introduce the chapter, we always start with vocabulary. So our vocabulary for today is kingdom. Kingdom is a major group into which all living things are classified. Kingdom. Life cycle. The stages through which a living thing goes from birth until death. Right? So life cycle. And we see here we have the frog life cycle. Adapt means to change. Okay, so look at how this ancestor finch changes its beak. Characteristic. Something that makes a person, thing, or group different. Right? So we are gonna talk about some characteristics of different animals. Classify. To put things into groups based on similarities or type. Right? So take a look at these blocks and see how they're classified. Vertebrates. Animals that have a backbone. Invertebrates. Animals that do not have a backbone. And we're going to talk a lot more about this, friends. So our word for today is classify, and it means to sort or group animals or things according to common characteristics. So the scientists decided to use ideas to create a worldwide system to classify or group animals based on their shared characteristics. So think about it like this. Have you ever had a pack of fruit snacks? You rip it open, dump them out on your table, and then you sort them by color. Have you ever done that with M&Ms or even Skittles or Starburst? Any kind of candy that you can sort by color. Well, you just classified or sorted into groups your candy by a common characteristic. And the characteristic you used to sort your candy was color. Well, scientists do the same thing with animals, right? So they classify them, or they sort them or group them by their common characteristics. And don't worry, we're going to learn a lot more about that too. So during the reading, I want you to listen for 5 groups of animals, their names, and why scientists group them as they do. So friends, here's our reading for today. And this is chapter 2. And chapter 2 is called Classifying Living Things. So, classifying living things is a heading that helps us to identify the information quickly. So what we know based on the heading, and the heading is a text feature, right? We talked about text features yesterday. So the heading is a text feature, and it helps us to identify information more quickly. So we know that this chapter is going to be about classifying living things. So I want you to look here on page 10, and I want you to find the word classify. It's in the first paragraph. Now remember, bold print words, another text feature, are important concepts in the reading. So where in the reader could we find the definition of classify very quickly? It's another text feature. Right, we can find the definition of classify in the glossary. Right, so before I read page 10, I want you to look at page 11. Page 11 has a photograph and a caption. Right, so look at the photograph. The caption says, all living things are classified by their characteristics. Right, another bold word, characteristics. Another bold word on this page, on page 11, is life cycle. On page 10 is life cycle. And on page 10, another bold word is also habitat. So I'm going to read page 10, and I want you to think about what are characteristics of all living things. Okay, I'm going to ask you that again. What are characteristics of all living things. I'm going to read page 10 and I want us to find out. Here we go. Rattenborough here. Do you remember who I am? I'm here now to help you learn about how scientists sort or classify living things into groups. Since I am an expert on animals, we will focus mainly on animals. First, I'm going to ask you two very important questions. How do you know if something is living or non-living? What important characteristics do all living things have? All living things create energy from food. All living things can have babies or make other living things just like themselves. All living things have a life cycle. They start out small and then grow. All living things change to fit in better with their habitat. Now, our question again. What are characteristics of all living things? Do you have an answer? Go ahead. What is it? That's right. All living things create energy from food. So that means all living things eat food. Do you eat food every day? All right. All living things start out small and then they grow. So think about this. Remember when you were a baby, a small baby? And then now you're growing, right? And then you're going to grow even more? Right. All living things can fit in better with their habitat. They can change to fit in better with their habitat. What does that mean? Okay, we're in Texas, right? So, you all know that I'm from Michigan and it gets very cold in Michigan. But when I came to Texas, guess what I don't need anymore? I don't need those scarves. I don't need the big, thick, heavy winter coat, right? I've changed. I'm a living thing, and I've changed to fit in better with my habitat. My habitat, the weather is hotter. So that means I don't need all those things that I used in Michigan to keep me warm in the cold. We just don't have the cold here. Let's move on. Look at the picture on page 13. Plants have the characteristics that all living things have, right? So I'm going to read page 12 to you, and we're going to discover some plant characteristics. Plants make up one group of living things. We know this because plants have the same characteristics that all living things have. Plants create energy from food. They make their own food using the sun, water, and gases in the air. Plants make seeds that become new plants. Plants grow from small seeds into seedlings and become adult plants. Plants can adapt to their habitat. For example, all plants need water, but a cactus in a dry desert does not need as much water as other plants. So, when we talk about plants, plants adapt to their habitat. They create energy from food. Plants make seeds that become new plants, and plants grow small seeds into seedlings and become adult plants. On page 15, we have another photograph and another caption. Animals have the characteristics that all living things have. Let's find out how. Animals of all shapes and sizes are living things too. So, animals also have the same characteristics that all living things have. Animals get energy from the food they eat. Animals can have babies. Baby animals are small but grow into adult animals. Animals can adapt to their habitat. For example, the fur of polar bears looks white so they can blend in with the snow where they live. Are you noticing a pattern? Right? Are you noticing that all living things, they kind of have the same type of characteristics? Absolutely. So I want you to take a look at page 17, and I want you to look at what word is bold. You see it more than once. What word is it? You see it a lot, actually. That's right, it's kingdom. This is an important word in our reading for this page. Now, how does the chart on page 17 help you understand the classification of living things, right? So here we go, page 17. Let's take a look at this chart. Scientists classify living things into 5 kingdoms. They classify animals into other groups by their characteristics. So we're going to read about these kingdoms right now. So I'm going to read page 17. I'm going to read page 16. Plants and animals are both living things, but plants and animals are different in important ways. For example, animals move from place to place, but plants do not. Scientists study how living things are alike and different and sort or classify them into large groups called kingdoms. There are 5 kingdoms of living things. You just learned about 2, the plant kingdom and the animal kingdom. You will learn about the other kingdoms in later grades. The living things in each kingdom can be sorted into more specific groups. Scientists study animals within the animal kingdom and classify them by the characteristics they share with other animals. One way scientists classify animals into more specific groups is by checking if an animal has a backbone. Insects do not have backbones, but birds and fish do. So, animals with the backbone are in different, more specific groups within the animal kingdom. Insects make up the largest group in the animal kingdom, but there are other large groups of animals such as birds and fish. You will learn more about the major groups in future chapters. So friends, we kind of break these things down and we break them down some more, and they just kind of continue to get broken down into different groups and different classifications. We classify the things around us so we can get to know our world better. As we learn about living things, we also learn about ourselves and our place in the world. So far, scientists have classified over 1 million different kinds of animals. Most of these are insects. Many scientists think there may be close to 10 million other animals that still have not been classified. That's all for now. Rattenborough, over and out. I'll be back in the next chapter to tell you more about how animals are classified into different groups. Okay, friends, that's it for chapter 2, and you will have just a few questions to answer in our discussion. So that's all for now.